Your neighbor pulls up in a Tesla. You're driving the same Honda you've had for 6 years. And in that 3-second moment, your brain just recalculated your entire worth. Here's the mechanism and the pattern that breaks it. I've been studying something bizarre about human behavior. We're the only species that tortures itself with imaginary scoreboards. A bird doesn't see another bird's nest and spiral into inadequacy. But you see someone's vacation photos, and suddenly your entire week tastes different. By the end of this video, you'll understand the exact mechanism hijacking your brain during comparison. And I'll give you a framework that actually stops it. Not gratitude journaling, not positive affirmations, something that works. Here's how it starts. You're having a perfectly fine Tuesday. Your apartment is comfortable. Your car runs. Your life is functional. Then you scroll past someone's kitchen renovation. Marble countertops, those industrial pendant lights everyone has now. And something shifts. Suddenly, your kitchen looks dingy. The cabinet doors don't close quite right, do they? That crack in the tile you've walked past for 2 years. Now it's screaming at you. Or you're at a stoplight and a brand new Audi pulls up next to you. Premium badge, perfect paint, and you catch yourself looking at your dashboard like it personally failed you. This is what I call the container illusion. And here's what makes it so insidious. Your brain doesn't just notice the gap between what you have and what they have. It recalculates your entire worth in real time. The comparison rewrites your value. It's not about wanting the thing. It's about the sudden, visceral feeling that you're falling behind in a race you didn't even know you were running. And you can't remember who started the timer. I want you to think about water for a second. Pour it into expensive crystal. It's still just water. Pour it into a plastic cup from a gas station. Same water. The water doesn't try harder in the fancy container. It doesn't feel inferior in the cheap one. It just exists completely neutral about the vessel. Your character operates on the same principle, but your brain desperately doesn't want you to see this. Here's what I've noticed. There's the actual substance of who you are, how you treat people when no one's watching, what you refuse to tolerate in your own thinking, whether you help or harm. And then there's the container. The container is everything visible. The car, the apartment, the clothes, the curated Instagram grid. The problem is your brain evolved to obsess over containers. Because for most of human history, the visible display actually mattered for survival. The tribe member with better tools, better shelter, better resources, they were genuinely better positioned to survive and reproduce. So your brain developed this automatic comparison system. It scans, it measures, it ranks. But we're not living in tribes anymore. We're living in an artificially inflated display economy, where everyone's optimizing their container and completely neglecting their water. And your ancient brain can't tell the difference. It still thinks the bigger container means better survival odds. Now here's where this gets actually dangerous. And this is the part that no one talks about. Not the productivity gurus, not the motivation accounts. Nobody. The comparison isn't just making you feel bad. It's rewiring how you think about everything. Let me show you what I mean. When you start comparing containers, something shifts in your mental architecture. I call it comparative cognition, and it operates like a virus spreading through your decision-making system. First exposure, you see their luxury SUV. You feel a twinge. That's normal. That's just your brain doing its comparison routine. But then you start calculating, what would I need to earn to afford that? What's the monthly payment? Probably $800. $1,200. Could I swing it if I cut back on what exactly? Groceries. The emergency fund I've been building for 3 years. This is where the rewiring begins, because now you're not just looking at your car differently. You're looking at your entire life through the lens of what you'd need to sacrifice to upgrade the container. You start resenting your job, not because it changed, but because it's not paying you enough to compete. You start feeling bitter toward people who have more, not because they wronged you, but because their container makes yours look worse. You start making financial decisions based not on what actually serves your life, but on what closes the perceived gap. And here's the really insidious part. This process happens mostly unconsciously. You don't wake up and decide, today I'll let comparison rewire my priorities. It just happens. Slowly, like water wearing down stone. The container obsession doesn't just make you feel inadequate. It makes you inadequate by shifting your focus from building actual character to optimizing the display. You become what you're trying to avoid. Let me make this concrete. You're at work. Colleague mentions their bonus. Same role, same experience as you. Theirs was $15,000. Yours was $8,000. What happens next? Most people focus on the money. That's not fair. I should talk to my manager. Maybe I'm not valued here, but watch what comparison does to your thinking. You start reviewing every interaction you've had with your boss, reinterpreting them through this new lens of unfairness. You start mentally cataloging your contributions versus theirs. You start feeling resentment in meetings. Not because anything changed in your actual job, but because the container comparison infected your perception. Now here's the interesting part. Contrast this with someone who understands the water principle. Same scenario. They hear about the bigger bonus. And yes, they might have a practical conversation with their manager about compensation, but they don't let it contaminate how they show up. Here's what I mean. Are you still helping the junior person who's struggling? Are you still doing your best work regardless of whether it's noticed? Are you still generous with your knowledge? That's the water. The salary is the container. The person focused on their water doesn't need to ignore the container completely. They just don't let container comparisons dictate their character quality. They might drive the older car and still be the person everyone calls when things get hard. They might live in the smaller apartment and still be the one who hosts people with genuine warmth. The luxury doesn't make you better. The character makes you rich. The market just hasn't figured out how to price it. Now, most advice about comparison completely misses the point. They tell you to practice gratitude or delete social media or focus on your journey. That's not wrong, but it's incomplete. Gratitude doesn't address the underlying mechanism. You can be grateful for your car and still feel inadequate when the Tesla pulls up. It's not about appreciating what you have. It's about understanding that the comparison itself is measuring the wrong variable. Deleting social media just removes one trigger. But you still live in the world. You still see your neighbor's new kitchen. You still overhear the salary conversation. You still sit at the stoplight next to the Porsche. The trigger isn't the problem. Your response system is. And focus on your journey sounds nice but gives you nothing actionable. What does that actually mean when you're sitting at the stoplight feeling like your car is personally disappointing you? What's the mechanism? Here's what actually works. You need to train your brain to recognize the difference between container and water in real time. When comparison starts, you don't fight the feeling. You don't toxic positivity your way out of it. You ask one question. Is this about the container or the water? Did their bigger house make you kinder? Did their luxury car make you more principled? Did their exotic vacation make you more generous? Did their designer watch make you braver? Here's your framework for this week. I'm calling it the water check. Every time you feel that comparison itch, and you will feel it, probably multiple times today, pause for 5 seconds and ask, container or water? Your coworker's expensive watch. Container. Your decision to help someone even though you were exhausted. Water. Their verified social media account. Container. Your refusal to entertain cruel thoughts about someone who wronged you. Water. The designer handbag. Container. Your genuine generosity without expecting return. Water. Write down one water moment each day, not as moral scorekeeping, as evidence. Evidence that you're building something that can't be bought, can't be flexed, can't be displayed on Instagram. But it's the only thing that actually compounds. The only thing that survives market crashes and job losses and platform algorithm changes. Because here's what I've found. The people who focus on their water start seeing containers differently. Not as worthless. They're not. But as neutral, as temporary, as the thing that holds the substance, not the substance itself. And when you stop letting containers define your worth, something interesting happens. You stop running a race that has no finish line. You stop competing in a game where everyone loses. Remember the Tesla that made your life feel smaller. It's still just a container. It doesn't make your neighbor more principled. It doesn't make them kinder. It doesn't mean they've built better water. It just means they bought a different container. And you have a choice every single day. Optimize the container and play an unwinnable game, or focus on the water and build something that actually matters. Most people spend their whole lives upgrading containers while their water stays stagnant. Don't be most people. If this framework landed, subscribe. I release a new one every week. Not philosophy, not motivation. Patterns about how humans actually work, and how to make them work for you instead of against you. The comparison treadmill stops the moment you realize you're measuring the wrong thing. So stop measuring containers. Start building water. See you next week.